G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. Today you're going to be going over my tips for round 9 of the 2025 AFL season. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go to enjoy today's video. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so let's start with how I went from round 8 and I got myself a 7 out of 9. So back-to-back weeks of pretty solid tipping in some good form. The tips I did get incorrect though was tipping Fremantle over St Kilda. They got belted by 60 points, probably one of Fremantle's worst performance in quite a number of years. It was shocking, and I did tip the Giants over my Swannies and a good bounce back from the Swans, and the remaining tips correct. The Dons felt this one would be close, and it sure was. North almost came back and ran over the top of them, but Essendon held firm. The Dogs over Port Adelaide, 90 points, an absolute pasting. The Crows really got back to their strengths against the Blues. The D's over the Eagles. The Cats over the Pies. This one, a risky tip. I expected the Pies to be the better side, and they were leading for more of the night. But what a game this was. One of the games of the year. Crisp, very unlucky after the siren, but Dangerfield, probably one of the best final quarters we've seen in some time out of any individual player. And then Hawthorn over Richmond and Brisbane over the Suns. A quick look now by tipping competition leaderboard updates. There were two people that got themselves a full 9 out of 9 score. They were CJ Giant and ESPN Fan, which is a unchanged name. And as for who is leading my competition, it is CC's with a total score of 73. Let's now begin with our tips for round 9. We start on the Thursday night. Fremantle will take it on the Pies at Optus Stadium. It's a must-win for the Dockers to get their season back on track off the back of one of their worst performances in a number of years. They were timid, they looked soft. Sarong, Brayshaw, Jordan Clark, a few of their important players had very low-numbered games, just simply a game to forget. They were out-pressured, out-hunted by the Saints, and they have tended to play their best brand of football at home, win against the Dogs, and also the Crows looked fairly strong on how they moved to Pill, so they need to get back to that, facing Collingwood, who are still one of the competition's best and most in form, even though they did drop that game against the Cats. We're in good control for most of that game against the Cats, but let it slip late, and I thought they had a handful of key misses in front of goal. News broke out earlier today for the Pies that 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and Maynard won't make the trip as they'll be managed, whilst for 𝘼𝐼𝐿𝐴 he won't make it either because he is injured. So how much do we factor that in? Because I feel like Collingwood, given they've shown they are such a well-balanced team in these first 8 odd rounds, that I feel like they can plug the gaps and have the depth to fill in those areas. Back at home, I do feel bullish Fremantle can respond in a positive way. I'd expect a much better performance from their midfield group. Young, unfortunately, going to be out with a long-term injury, so does someone like Amira or maybe Nathan O'Driscoll could push for selection this week, but they just need more from those on-ballers like Brayshaw and Sarong. At home, they've been able to move the ball really well too, so can they stretch the Pies' defence like Geelong were able to, especially as the game wore on? Overall though, I just feel like Collingwood are the better team in form. Even with those outs, I feel like they can plug the gaps and still play some solid enough footy to pick up a win here. They've been inconsistent for as midfield. I don't know what to expect, but you just trust Collingwood more on a side that needs to get it done. They'll definitely get it done, especially in the trenches. So I'll go with the Pies here away from home. We'll go them by 16 points. For Friday night footy now, we've got the Saints taking on the Blues at the MCG. This is a big fixture for both teams looking to push their way up the ladder. The Saints, off the back of a very impressive win against Fremantle, I thought their pressure was just brutal. Totally outdid the Dockers. Got back to their really good strengths which they've been able to show this year of the ground level game. Smacked the Dockers in clearance and contested possession. Mitch Owens had some nice moments up forward, and 𝐵𝐻𝐿𝐴 was the star of the show. I think he kicked, 3 or 4 goals in a quarter. He was massive. The gulf between the good and bad, though, is still a bit of an issue when you look at the bigger picture with the Saints. So what will we expect here at the G on Friday night against the side of the Blues that will be disappointed dropping that game against the Crows? It's just the same old Carlton, really. When they can't get on top of the contested game, they get exposed on the outside, and they never really seem to play well either against the Crows. Bit of a bogey side for them, nor the Adelaide Oval. Back at the home at footy, you'd think they will have a strong response here, or at least make this game close. And they are the slight favourites for this game too. The way on how they beat Geelong was outstanding. It wasn't necessarily them getting it done in the trenches, but their pressure and especially their turnover game. I think they kicked 60, 70 points off turnovers. So can they really get their outside game going here against the Saints, where they themselves, they haven't been as good as they were last year moving the ball, but they can still show some really damaging plays and signs when moving it from the back half, the Saints. Very well drilled and a really good running side to the Saints, so could that bigger ground of the MCG suit them? Really tough one to tip here. Both sides have shown some inconsistency, but I'm going to go with the Saints here. I just really was impressed with their performance last week, and if they can outdo Carlton around the footy, I back them with their outside game to also outdo the Blues. So Going to go to the Saints in this one. Really could go either way though. So I'll back in the Saints, however, and tip them in a close game by 9 points. For the Saturday games now, first one up, we do have the D's taking on Hawthorn at the MCG. The D's have the wood over the Hawks. They've won their past 3 matchups. So I guess you have to consider that a little bit. And Melbourne have still been in some solid form. They've won 3 games in a row. Ran away with the win in the second half against the Eagles and belted them around the ball, especially in the clearances. So not just their team, but I think their midfield has really improved as the weeks have gotten on. So could they try and win that midfield battle against Hawthorn? Meanwhile, for Hawthorn, they got the job done over the Tigers, kicked a big score, and that's just what we know with the Hawks. They, on their day, can be a really damaging ball-moving side and link up very nicely inside 50. Gunston kick his 500th. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 had a really nice performance with the absence of 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿 taking his chances well in the midfield with the absence of Will Day and Connor Nash. Hawthorn's last 2 games, though, have been against the 2 weakest teams basically in the competition of Richmond and West Coast. So how will they go against a side that isn't ranked too highly, but in some really solid form, and I don't think they are easy beats with how they are playing the Ds. Goal kicking has been a real big issue for them as well. They've had a lot of set shot misses, so if they will spray a few shots, I think the Demons, with how they move the ball really quick and really direct and want to constantly keep the ball in motion, that could maybe catch out the Hawks a bit defensively. For me though, I just have to see it to believe it with tipping the Demons. Don't have the trust of them. I just think Hawthorn, the better team overall. No doubt in some really good form too, so you'd think the morale confidence will be really perked up. But just a bit of a watch. Maybe the Ds could make this a good game, but I just expect Hawthorn to really get it done on the outside. Should be a very interesting midfield battle though. I think that the Ds can get on top. Watch out, this could be maybe an upset in the cards, but I'll back in the Hawks here and go with them by 12 points. Next game up, we do have the Dons taking on the Swans at Marvel Stadium. This matchup we meet again. Expect this one to go right down the wire. It just feels like these games are always close. The Dons have won 4 out of their last 5 games. Now, not exactly against the best opposition, but the form is there. They are in some good form. And as for the Swans, got their season back on track with a real gritty and gutsy win against their Giants. I thought their pressure and intensity for 4 full quarters is really important and really key towards their win. They might not have the flashiest forward line at the moment with Hamling and Aaron Francis, but they are playing their roles well and winning contests for the ball. And the strength always with the Swans is they can rack up a lot of individual goal scorers. And a strength with the Swans as well is they can rack up a lot of individual goal scorers. And on their day, throughout the season, they've been able to show that they can still be a very damaging turnover team. And that's what we saw a bit against the Giants. Their ability to move the ball from the back half especially outdid the Giants multiple times. Essendon like to control the footy though, and that has been a weakness always, usually with Sydney, when sides rack up the uncontested possessions. That can sometimes put the Swans under a bit of strife with defending ball movement. The link-up play inside 50 continues to remain a bit of an issue for Essendon, however. Jones will be out with that ankle injury, so does someone come in like a 𝘼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿? I'm pretty sure Caldwell's also going to be coming back in this lineup, which is just huge. He's key to their engine room. And their contested and clearance game, the Dons, has been some of the best in the competition as well, differential-wise. So could they smack the Swans around the pill? That could be certainly an area for them winning this game. It will be very close though, but I think the Swans off the back of that win against the Giants should give them a bit of confidence. I feel like their cohesion and confidence has hindered the last few of their losses, but that should potentially get the ball rolling. And I feel like their turnover game could be the difference in this matchup. So I'll go with the Swannies in this one. The absence of 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 will hurt, but I'm sure that Hamlin can plug the hole fairly well enough. So Sydney win. A close game as always. We'll go then by 6 points. We do have the Suns taking on the Dogs at TIO Stadium up in Darwin. This is a happy hunting ground for the Suns. I can't remember the last time they lost up in Darwin, and they are hosting one of the more informed teams in the competition of the Western Bulldogs. Midfield is looking outstanding as we speak the last few weeks. Bontempelli and especially Richards, I think he's been one of the highest rated players in the competition. He's looking really damaging with his disposal. Up forward too, they're having their targets. Their stoppage game, back to their strengths of traditional stoppage dominance. I think they kicked like 8 odd goals from 450 stoppages against Port Adelaide. Now it was a mauling, but 8 goals from that area is just unheard of. But for the Suns, they play good here, and I know they will have a few heads dropped with that disappointing performance against the Lions, where they were belted in their own good game of contested footy and the clearances. They got pelted. Dunkley tagged out. Rowley only had 1 clearance. You don't usually hear that from a player like him. So I feel like a bounce back has to be on the cards here. Wink is a long time in footy as well. Really could see this one going either way. Can the Dogs convincingly beat the Suns around the football and score a lot from stoppages where they've been good at as of late? Or can Gold Coast get back on top of that area? And remember, their ball movement from the back half can be damaging. And their front half pressure as well has been a key facet on them winning games and turning the ball over in dangerous areas. Very high handball receive side too. And from what we've seen the past few matchups at TIO Stadium, some of those, especially like Victorian sides, as the games fade on late, they get fatigued and you can really see the sweat and humidity when watching the game from your TV set. So I might edge my tip here towards the Suns, sensing a bit of a bounce back as well. And as for the Dogs, I'd still think they are one of the more informed teams in the comp. If this was at Marvel, I'd probably tip the Dogs, but just up in Darwin, I'll back in the Suns here because of the venue. But should be a really cracking contest, this one. I'll go the Suns in a close one by 8 points. Then we have the showdown at 8:10 p.m. at the Adelaide Oval. Port hosting the Adelaide Crows. Technically, Port Adelaide are going to be the team off the back of a very disappointing loss. 90 points in the end against the Dogs. They just couldn't do anything right after quarter time. It was a very windy game, really poor conditions. So, look, is that a bit of an excuse? It was still absolutely unacceptable. Their midfield and their effort around the footy, getting belted around the ball. That's been an issue for them in a few performances this year, getting smacked in contested ball. And as for the Crows, really got back to their strengths against Carlton. I thought their speed on how they move the ball, quick hand passes, just totally outdid the Blues on the outside. Their ability to move the ball from the back half was really strong too. Dawson had probably his best game of the season. Rochelle got a bit of midfield time in there. Rankin, dynamic as always. Just like I say almost every time with Port needing a bounce back, if they do want to win their game against the opposition, need to bring back that forward half pressure. I just think at the Adelaide Oval, when Port really bring the heat, they are a tough side to beat, especially the Adelaide Oval. But the Crows won't be fazed by them. They do have the wood over Port Adelaide as of late. So I think Port just have to respond, make this game close, bring back some heat and intensity around the ball. But with how the Crows played last week, I think that should give them some confidence, really expose Port Adelaide defensively with that quick ball movement. And geez, they were slick when moving the ball from inside to out against the Blues, and I think that could catch out Port Adelaide defensively. So I'll go with the Crows in this one and tip them by 14. For the Sunday games now, first one up at 1:10 p.m, we have the Tigers taking on the Eagles at the MCG. Could this be the fixture where the Eagles finally pick up their first win of the season? It has to come soon because they've showed some periods of dominance. Their first half, they're able to kick a run of goals and narrowly lead against the Demons in that first half before they did unfortunately filter away a little bit. But probably one of their more, gallant performances. As for the Tigers, they probably had their worst performance of this season. Their loss to the Hawks back on Sunday just were nowhere near it at all. A lot of unforced errors and their execution inside 50 wasn't really creative at all. A lot of long bombs and striding ahead of Tom Lynch and that just comes straight back out. Can they get back on the horse here against the Eagles? If this one was over in Perth, you'd of course lean your tip towards the Eagles, but given it's at the MCG where the Tigers arguably play their better brand of footy at this venue, probably lean towards them here. Really don't know what to expect from either side. These are two teams in the bottom three. Can the Eagles show a bit of dominance around the footy? Will they bring some younger players in? Does Tom Gross get a chance or Clay Hall? 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻's been in some good form though, so could he be one of the key players for them to win this game? Just feel though, given this one is at the MCG, I'll lean my tip here towards the Tigers. I feel the Tigers can out-hunt the Eagles around the ball and they'll pick up a close win here by 12 points. Next Sunday game, 3:20 p.m, we have the 𝐓𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 taking on the Giants at 𝐺MHBA Stadium. And I have to start off with this tip by saying the Giants, they have a very good record over here in Geelong. And I think a lot of Cats fans do know that the past two times this matchup has occurred, the Giants have won both times by a margin of both under 10 points. So they seem to pick up some close wins here. But the Giants, geez, they are in some ordinary form. They have lost 3 games in a row, falling out of the 8 if they are to lose this game. The Cats, off the back of just a really good coaching performance by Chris Scott, it looked like they were second best or a 2 to 3 goal worse aside against the Pies throughout the majority of the night. But they quicked a bit of their ball movement. They had a lot of deep entries and they just were able to really stretch Collingwood's defence with how they moved it. They got it done in the trenches when the moments mattered too. And Dangerfield's last quarter just carried them on their back. Probably one of the best final quarters I've seen out of a player in quite some time. It was remarkable. No Tom Stewart, no Henry, no Kolodjasny. They had some key outs and still got it done. So a side with high morale, on some good confidence as well, back at the home of the Cattery where they play their best football. They are the safe tip here, no doubt. Where the issues really lied for the Giants is they just haven't really had that cutting edge with how they move the ball. They have some nice chains from the back half, but then they'll have a misplaced hand pass or a poor entry inside 50, and they've been getting hurt the other way quite a bit. When you look at the numbers, they are one of the hardest teams to move the ball from the defensive 50 to the forward 50, but then you look at the four inside 50s against, they are ranked in the bottom 4. So when they turn the ball over in bad spots, teams can expose them quite a bit, and we all know the Cats, their turnover game, especially at home, how they move the ball can really outdo opposition here. So if they bring that to the table of a strong turnover game, I think the Cats, you got to go with them here. But I still feel like the Giants are due for a bounce back performance, and you know, when they can move the footy well, they like to change the angles and like to move it quick. The Cats have shown that they can struggle defending that really quick ball movement, and sides that can really change the angles against them. So, you know what, I'm going to go to the Giants here. It doesn't really feel right given their current form, but I just feel like still this side on paper has to give, and they have a very good record over here at the Cattery. You've got to go with risky tips sometimes, so I'm going to back in the Giants in this one. Really close game. They win a thriller by 5 points. And for the final game of the round at Blundstone Arena, or Ninja Stadium as it's called now, over in Tassie, we've got the Kangas taking on the Lions. North Melbourne, just the one win of this season. The last 5 games, they've lost all 5. And as for Brisbane, well, it's first versus 17th, so do I really need to spend much time on this tip here? Must be said though, the last 2 weeks have definitely been a lot more of gallant performances. They really brought it up to Port Adelaide, and they have just lacked composure in key moments, especially with also their loss to the Dons. But as games have worn on in their last 2 matches, they've really gotten on top of the midfield battle. So could they do that to a side like Brisbane? It's hard to see. One of the more mature teams in the competition, a side that you can trust a lot with tipping. The last 2 performances have been very good as well. They've been dominant in the midfield battle, and it's just hard to see a world where North Melbourne win this game. Maybe they could start off well, but I just expect Brisbane to get the job done here. They have the firepower up forward and the better midfield on paper, so Brisbane should win this game well over the Kangas. Maybe North push them, but I think the Lions will run away with it and win this game by 30 points. So everyone, they were my tips for round 9 of the 2025 AFL season. Let me know your tips down below in the comments section. Going for any upsets, I feel like you've always got to go with 1 or 2 each week to get your tips fairly close. But yeah, let me know your tips down below in the comments section. Always love to hear your people's opinions. And that's it from me, everybody. Take care, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.